Okay, there's a new link. We're now looking at Luke typing. Hello, apologies for the tech issues. I don't know why. This worked perfectly earlier and now it's not working. So we have to do it on this new YouTube link, which listening to myself. Sorry about this. Hopefully you're all following us here. You gang could just start chatting to each other so people know that this is it.
Good evening.
Yes.
Hi. Welcome.
Hi guys.
Hey there.
I posted the new link in the chat
I
of
can't
the old link.
Did you? Because
I can't see the link.
Yeah, all it says, Luke, is this is the new link with nothing there.
No way.
And I didn't want to say anything.
Yeah,
But
I
now you
posted the
brought it
link on
Is it
YouTube
work-
as well, and it
Is it
didn't
working, the new link?
do anything. It is working. We are live now on the internet.
Oh, are we?
hello.
Great.
Okay, that's
Right,
good.
so
But
what I put
where?
in the chat isn't there? That's mad.
Yeah, like, I mean, this is the new link. And then Pearl quite rightly says, what was the old link, Luke? I think she's making fun. I could be wrong, though.
Wow.
But
Is
we're
it-
live.
Is it live on your website as well, Mark, or not?
No, my website is showing the old link.
Okay. Can you send me the new link?
Yeah.
Oh, it's in the discussion, right? Cool.
You're handling this like
Aha.
a champ, Mark. Because I wouldn't know what to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so we've got Linda and Dave are watching us now.
Just gonna share this link.
Don't click into it.
Mad.
No.
Let me try and if I post it with a space before the .com, does that help?
I'll tell you now.
This is so fascinating. For those who have joined us already and are just watching us trying to figure out how to tell everybody else that this is where we are, apologies. But you know, it's a farce. So everything's got to go wrong, and it has gone wrong. It's worked great when I did it earlier, and now not so much.
Oh my.
Good. I mean,
People are coming.
people are coming, people are joining.
Are you watching it, Rob? Are you watching yourself on a live stream?
Oh, yeah.
Are you getting a
No,
little
just keeping it
sick?
alive.
Yeah, just having a good time.
No, I'm closing it now. I just had a quick peek.
I don't want to. I'm too nervous to see numbers.
Oh, whatever I'm posting is not the right link at all.
Well, that
It
helps.
was initially, but now I'm just counter spreading
Fake news, Luke.
bad link.
Oh, I'm so confused.
Oh,
Uh,
God.
the
Oh no, we have it. Okay.
okay. I mean, I could try and put the new link on my website as well, but that'll take a moment to do. Is it worth it?
You put the new link on the YouTube description of the old link, maybe.
Oh yeah, under the description, yeah. Yeah.
Just quickly change the poster, Mark.
Absolutely.
Guys, I have to go to past, so I'm probably just going to shoot.
That's fair. That's fair. Thanks for dropping by.
This is last. Is great.
Oh, and all that fuss, I closed the script.
Apologies for the delay, everyone. I am just going to try and get it up on my website as well, because some people are logging on there, because I assured everybody that that is what will work, and now that's not working. So we're all having a good time, and I'm going to update this really fast. On it. That's no one. That is what will work.
Yeah.
And now that's not. Great. Somebody's listening to
Sneaky
me.
peek.
on their-
Me, sorry. It's just checking the link and it's like blasting.
Okay. I do this here. It's going to be really good once this gets going. I was planning to kill time for like 5 minutes. It's 13 minutes past 8. So that, you know, latecomers could join. But then I'm now just trying to get this done as fast as I can. Okay, that should update soon. Okay. Well, welcome to 13 minutes late. Listen, this is the theater. Welcome to the Get Together Play Reading, or the Get Together Furious Tech Frenzy, as I try and figure out. I still don't know what happened there. Thanks for coming. Thanks for watching this. I've gathered together some friends to read out this play. We haven't rehearsed this at all, so I don't know what's going to happen. It's going to be, you know, it's going to be like this. You know, an unrehearsed shit show. No, it will be good. I've got some great people here. I wrote this play 10 years ago, as I was saying on the original live streams, nobody, and I wrote it as a film originally, and then I said, okay, well maybe I could turn it into a play. I turned it into a play. And then I sent it to some theater friends, and they said, "Oh, how many people are in it?" And I said 8 people, and they said, "Well, that's never going to exist on a stage." But I did put it on in a kind of funny kind of way. What did I do? Well, so we met for the first day of rehearsals. I gathered the cast together. We met for the first day of rehearsals, and then we put the show on that night, and it cost €1 to watch the show. And then we met for the second day of rehearsals on Tuesday, and we put the show on that night, and it cost €2, and etc. for a couple of weeks, and we put the show on in a cheap way like that, so we saved on rehearsal times. And again, we saved on rehearsal times here. So I have a cast. Well, I'll go through the cast in a second, but just to let you know, the first half was originally about 50 minutes long. I don't know how long it's going to be when we're reading it out like this. So about 50 minutes, then there'll be an interval of about 5 minutes, and we have Sean Flaherty's going to sing some songs during the interval. So there will be time to go to the toilet and get a cup of tea or whatever you need to do in about 50 minutes time. And then the second half is about 40 minutes. So It'll all be done by 10. Don't worry. We're going to bang this out. We're going to get rid of it all, and you won't have to think about it ever again. Okay. So I'll introduce the cast. First of all, we have myself. I'm playing Phil. He's in his late 40s. The cast aren't the right age, by the way. He's in his late 40s, and he's the father. We also have Harriet. Say hello, Harriet.
Hello.
That's Harriet there, played by Kelly O'Doherty. She is also in her late 40s, not in real life. But
Thanks for clarifying.
Yes. Then we have their kids. We have Tim, who's the son. Hello, Tim.
Hello.
That's Rob Early there playing Tim. He's about 22 in the play. And we have Georgina.
Hello.
That's Tamara Reinecke playing Georgina. She's about 20 in the show. We have Granny. Hello. Tamara, did you have something to say?
No, I happen to think I look close to 20. I was just having a really unrealistic moment. So it's fine.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. We're all too youthful for the parts. Anyone who's in this role. Speaking of which, Granny. Hello, Granny. Deborah, are you there? Yes, there's Deborah. Deborah Cheevers playing Granny. She's my mother in the play. Those are now like slight behind the scenes. Those are special effects. Those aren't real wrinkles on Deb there. So.
Or maybe I'm just not wearing makeup now.
Oh, it's finally revealed.
There we go.
We have Peter, played by Luke Benson. Yes,
Hello.
say something. You have to say something.
I should say something so it comes to me.
Yeah.
Rather than just thumbs up.
Thumbs up. So Luke is playing, he's in his late 20s, something like that.
Yes.
And there is Mikey, who's playing Gary, who's in his early 20s.
Hello.
And finally, we have Ursula, who's supposed to be in her mid 30s,
Hello.
played by Amy DeVroon.
Hello. Hello.
Say it again, Amy.
Hello. Why
Yes,
can't
there you are.
hear me?
There you are. Someone didn't like you for some reason.
I know. Very rude.
Yeah. Okay, so we're just gonna go for it. Let me just check in on the streams and see if this is actually in the right place. Yes, that's happening. And there seem to be people here on the correct stream. Good. Okay, so let's start this show, and let me turn off all the places where it's showing me what I look like as I'm doing this. So this is The Get Together by Mark Hansen, and you'll be pleased after all my talking that this starts off with my character of Phil talking some more. So, The Get Together. So, yeah, it was one day at work, really. Yes, I guess that's how it started. I write for a monthly construction magazine. It's a stable job, as we like to say. There's not a lot of surprises. Yes, there's planning scandals, there are new technologies, new building projects, but overall, nothing really changed in the office. Nothing really happened, apart from on that one occasion. I arrived in that morning and bumped into my boss, John, in the corridor. He asked me to come into his office and to talk about this new carbo cement product I was doing an article on. I started telling him what I'd found out from the manufacturers, but as I talked, his face started contorting into this weird grimace, kind of like a baby that's about to cry. And instead, a man in his 50s with a mustache. I mean, the guy is into his construction. He's a big fan of the technology stuff. I'd never seen him, but I'd never seen him react like that before. And it just wasn't that kind of atmosphere in there. It was all very reserved unemotional. It was a very reserved, unemotional kind of office, as you expect with a construction magazine. We mostly just talked about construction. We didn't show each other pictures of our kids. We didn't discuss how we were moved by a documentary on TV last night. And we didn't break down crime because of a new type of quick dry cement. So I started to suspect that something was up. I managed to regain a bit of my composure and carried on with the discussion, but quickly ran out of things to say about carbo cement. I mean, there's only a certain amount you can say about cement, even if you're really, really into that kind of thing. So I panicked and asked him if there was anything wrong. That was a big mistake. That was when he really broke down. He fell onto the floor in a heap. When I saw him toppling over out of his chair, I instinctively leapt out of my seat, but I didn't get over to him in time to stop him from falling. So then I was just kind of standing above him, not sure what to do next. So I patted him on the back, to which his response was to grab my hand and to whimper into it. He told me Sarah had left. I guess that must be his wife's name. I didn't get why she'd left. Most of it was about how he didn't know how he could go on. He was worthless without her. What was he going to do? He couldn't even work the sandwich toaster. And how he'd made a complete fool of himself when she told him that she was leaving. He begged her not to leave, apparently. Begged her on his knees like a fucking penguin. I think that was the expression he used. He made me promise not to let it happen to me. I assured him Harriet wasn't going to leave me, but that's not what he meant. He meant that when she inevitably did leave, I shouldn't make a fool out of myself by begging her to stay.
Well, you don't go into it thinking that you're not going to be huge. That's a thought that creeps up on you very, very slowly. So slowly, it's gone past you before you notice it, you know? I mean, I still had the occasional daydream about being in some big Oscar-winning Hollywood film, but I had never once in all my life dreamed that one day I could be the voice of a chat line for people with irritable bowel syndrome. Not even in my wildest fantasies. I was sitting there in the sound booth, reading out the lines for this ad for Relaxy Chats, when it struck me that this didn't actually seem out of place. This was my life, and I seemed to be fine with it. I read the tagline for the company, Relaxy Chats, where we pronounce it constipation, and didn't even blink. I hadn't done a role that involved saying more than, Mr. Murphy, your dog is in a coma, in over a year, and it didn't seem like anything was wrong. What was wrong with me? When had I decided to settle for, well, last place? Not even second best. I was the lowest rung on the ladder, and I wasn't even trying to climb. So I went to see my agent. I'd been with Alison for about 16 years. And it was kind of like how it sounded, a relationship. And Alison was having an affair with about 50 other clients. She took me for granted. She didn't even look at me anymore. Literally. When I walked into her office that day, she didn't even glance at me. She was so accustomed to my face, she knew it off by heart, so she just kept reading CVs. She didn't look at me for almost the entire time I was there. I asked the top of her head whether there was anything interesting going on at the moment, and all she came up with was an ad for low-calorie lettuce. I told her I'd heard there was a role as a woman stuck in a loveless marriage in an RTE drama that was being cast, but she said that part was already gone. She'd sent Cynthia in and she'd got it. I was better off without it though. She told me in her usual attempt at talking like a media mogul that it was a total ass snore, and when she'd read the script, she'd been yawning and puking at the same time, apparently. It hadn't even occurred to her to get me an audition. She didn't think I was into that kind of thing. What? Acting? What did she think I was there for? She didn't realize that was an actual question. She just looked up finally, smiled, and asked me how the kids were. They're fine.
I mean, it wasn't my fault that I was pregnant. I mean, I didn't mean to get pregnant, so I can't be blamed for what I didn't mean to do, can I? And I was careful, you know, just not careful enough. I mean, you can't spend your entire life worrying about every little thing. No, you'd never get anywhere. Obviously, in this instance, a little thing turned into like a big thing. But there was plenty of times that it didn't turn into like, not that many times, but there were times when it didn't. So, Jesus. I couldn't tell my parents about it. That wasn't even an option. Not right away. I had to build up to it, get everything figured out. I couldn't just blurt it out over breakfast, like, hurry up with the omelets, because a human being could come screaming out of my vagina at any minute. Surprise. Even my parents, who hadn't had an emotional response to anything in about 15 years, were probably going to flip out when they heard their 20-year-old daughter was pregnant. So, or like their equivalent of flipping out. Dad would probably frown slightly and say something profound like, oh, before turning to Mom, who'd sigh and fill up the dishwasher, which is essentially them totally freaking out. Yeah, Wendy, my friend, said I should cushion the blow. I mean, it's her fault in a way when you think about it. She put the idea into my head. Otherwise, I would never. Yeah, she said I needed to show my parents that I had a plan, that everything was going to be okay, that I could finish college and still take care of the baby and bring it up in a loving and stable family. But, you know, Wendy's a bit slow, and she forgot about the fact that there wasn't a loving and stable family, because I wasn't actually going out with anyone. And that was the bigger problem. They were one-night stands. I just met them out at a nightclub and gone back to their places. There were two different places. It's not like I'm not anybody's after a couple of drinks. I was completely pissed when I slept with them. Totally, okay. Besides, I was in college. That's what college is all about. It would have been weird for me not to sleep with lots of, like occasionally sleeping with someone. You know, everyone would have thought there was something weird going on with me, like my brother.
I don't know. How the hell am I supposed to remember every little thing? What am I, a 12-year-old girl who keeps everything in her little diary? Fuck's sake. The same as any other day. A boring waste of everyone's time. Breakfast, college, labs, Brian hassling me about not shagging some girl on the night before. You know, same shit as usual. Honestly, he's a pain in the ass sometimes. He just can't understand why I just don't want to sleep with every girl I see. It's like a personal insult to him. How could you not want to shag that girl? The jugs were falling off her. And she was definitely up for it, apparently. He'd asked her if she fancied me just after she'd given him a hand job in the back of the taxi on the way over to Mix, and she said she did. So I missed my chance there. I definitely, could have had a hand job too if I'd gone with them, which would have been very fucking romantic. But that's what Brian's like. He just can't understand that everyone's not the same as him. He wants to make out with a complete stranger by the bins out the back of Burger Joe's, so therefore that's what everyone really wants, if they just admit to it. Just because that's not my ultimate goal in life, he thinks there must be something wrong with me. There's nothing fucking wrong with me. I just don't fancy every single thing with breasts, And that doesn't mean I'm gay. It doesn't. Look, you can't control the way you feel. Sometimes you have certain feelings, like somebody for somebody, but you lose control of those feelings because obviously you could never do anything about it. It's just some bullshit like that. It's not a big deal. Let's just look. It would have been easier if it would have been one of the girls in my class that there wasn't anyone else. Anyway, so I finished the bullshit assignment, and then after college, I went to an old warehouse and I practiced my tuba for a couple of hours. I don't know.
Later that evening, Phil and I were having dinner. I don't know where the kids were. I started telling Phil about my meeting with Alison. She hadn't sent me in for the TV drama and didn't know anything about the play in the Green Oaks Theatre. I didn't feel like I was at the top of her priorities anymore. I felt like I was just part of the furniture in there, a stapler or something. It seemed like she had given up on my career, and if she didn't have any belief in me, then how the hell was anyone else going to? I needed to have someone who thought I was worth it and was going to push me rather than the other way around, which made me think that
To be honest, I think I kind of drifted off. It seemed important to her, but I just couldn't focus on what she was saying. I was just thinking about John and what a mess he'd been. It had been quite a shock, really, to see this usually cool-headed, in-control guy reduced to a sobbing wreck. I was still shaken by the whole thing. As Harriet talked, I was just imagining him sitting there at home by himself, crying into a cold sandwich. But then some part of my brain that was still paying attention heard Harriet say,
and it might be best if we both just went our separate ways.
I felt a bolt of lightning down my body. My attention was suddenly snapped back. She couldn't be. What had I just missed?
Phil seemed a bit concerned about this, to be honest. I didn't think he'd actually care if I left my agent, so I told him that. I just needed to get out, make a fresh start. I thought it was for the best, for both of us. It just wasn't working out, and it'd be a waste of our time to keep going just for the sake of loyalty. Things had just run their course. Hopefully, we'd still be friends, though.
What was she saying? Things had run their course. That's how she tells me she wants to leave me? I mean, maybe our marriage wasn't a whirlwind of romance every single day, but I didn't think it had gotten that bad.
I didn't think he even liked Alison, but he really seemed to be shocked by what I was saying, so I asked him what he thought. And that's when he said it, just out of the blue.
I thought back to what John had said. I didn't want to make a fool of myself like he did I? So I agreed. I said I thought we should get a divorce.
He just said it. Like I wouldn't be surprised, like I wouldn't care. Like it'd just be a confirmation of what I was already thinking or something. I sat there, speechless.
Harriet didn't say anything. She seemed to want more from me, so I tried to think of reasons why I agreed with her, even though I really didn't. I guess I just wanted to make it easier on her if this is what she needed to do. But I couldn't really think of anything. We still seemed to get on okay. We didn't argue anyway. Sex twice a week was actually plenty enough for me. I didn't get why some guys wanted 5 times a night. I mean, where did they get the zinc? And I certainly didn't want to see other people. I was kind of amazed I'd managed to get this one. The best I could come up with. I mean, I was struggling. And again, I was just trying to make it easier for her if this is what she wanted. But the best I could come up with was that we didn't play badminton together anymore.
Badminton? He had decided to leave me because we didn't play badminton anymore. What? Did he really love badminton that much? He could have just said something. Or was that supposed to be some kind of metaphor? I thought sex twice a week was plenty enough for him because of his whole zinc deficiency thing, but maybe that was just an excuse. Maybe twice a week was all he could bear with me. Maybe he just wanted to try with a younger model. Well, if that's what he wanted.
That seemed to upset her. But what did she want me to say? She was the one who was leaving me.
I couldn't reason with him if this was the way he was going to be, so I said I'd stay in my sister's.
I offered to go to a hotel, but she insisted. And then there was nothing else to say. So she just got up and left me sitting there, staring at what was left of my dinner, not knowing whether I should finish it or not.
I grabbed my bag and coat, trying to hold back the tears as I walked out, wondering how long he'd been thinking this. I thought of all the things we'd done over the past couple of months. When we'd been sitting on the couch watching TV, was he just thinking about how he wanted to be somewhere else? When we'd been on holidays in Greece, had he looked over at me in a bikini and thought, God, get her away from me? When I'd lain awake watching him snore a couple of weeks ago, had he been dreaming of some other woman? I went out the front door, closed it behind me, walked down the garden path, opened the gate, and then stopped. I turned back and paused, waiting for him to come running through the door, telling me he'd made a mistake and begging me to come back. But he didn't. So I turned away again and walked into Georgina.
It scared the shit out of me when I bumped into Mom at the gate. I was thinking hard about everything and I didn't see her until she ran into me. She never watches where she's going. I'd just been walking around for the last couple of hours thinking about everything and wondering what I was going to do. You know, and seeing her there made me feel really guilty, even though I didn't have anything to feel guilty about because I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't want her asking where I'd been, so I just decided to keep the conversation about her. I asked her where she was off to.
Oh, I don't know. I guess I didn't want to make it real. If I said it to someone else, then it'd really be out there and it'd really be happening. So I couldn't tell her where I was going, but I'm not good at lying. I know I'm an actor and pretending should come easy to me, but I'm still no good at it. So I panicked and told her that I wasn't leaving.
Even though she was standing at the gate with her bag and coat.
Which didn't make a lot of sense. So I tried changing the subject and asked her where she was going.
Even though I was obviously just coming in.
Which made more sense. So I decided to go with that as well and said that I was just back from yoga.
I didn't want it to get into a big discussion of who was where and why. So I just let it drop and walked in the door. When I turned back, Mom was just waiting there, as if she was waiting for something.
I didn't know what to do. George was standing there waiting for me to come in, so I just walked back into the house. She closed the door behind us and I was trapped.
And then she just stood there in the hall, not moving any further, acting as if she'd never been there before, like it wasn't her own bloody house. If I didn't know her, I would have thought she was on drugs or something.
I looked up to our bedroom where I guessed Phil would be. I couldn't go up there, so I followed George into the living room.
I have never seen Mom watch so much TV. I mean, for an actor, she doesn't seem to be into watching actual acting. The two of us sat there watching some sitcom with neither of us laughing. Oh, and then Sarah's Hospital came on. This week, there was like this old woman who was dying of something or whatever, and explaining to her grandson that he wasn't going to like see her anymore. And after a while, I looked over and saw that Mom looked really upset about Sarah's Hospital. It's one of the crappiest shows on TV. I mean, I guess that's why she doesn't watch that much TV, if that's how she reacts. Eventually, I asked her if everything was all right. She said that she was fine. She was just tired. And I mean, basically, I told her to go to bed if she was tired, and then I could just change the bloody channel. This seemed like one of the most surprising ideas she'd ever had, but she didn't seem to have a reply, so she just got up and left.
I was sitting on the edge of the bed, just staring into space when I heard a knock on the door. I looked up at the clock and saw that I'd been staring at her reading glasses for over 2 hours. I didn't want the kids to see that I'd been upset, so I jumped off the bed and looked around for something to pretend to be doing. I just grabbed the first thing to hand.
I didn't know what I'd see when I went into the room. Would he be laughing, crying, asleep? It didn't occur to me that he'd be on the exercise bike, though.
I was so surprised when Harriet walked in, I nearly stopped pedaling. For a second, I thought maybe she'd come back to tell me she'd made a mistake. But that wasn't why she'd returned, apparently.
It wasn't that easy to just tell the children. Maybe it was easy for him, but...
Well, it was hardly easy for me.
Well, I didn't mean...
I told her I could tell the kids if she couldn't.
I ignored the dig and just agreed. We'd tell them in the morning.
In the meantime, she should stay here. I'd sleep on the floor.
I didn't want to sleep in the bed. It didn't seem like our bed anymore, so I said that I should take the floor.
She couldn't sleep on the floor. She had a bad back.
I told him it was fine. I'd sleep on the floor. He needed to work tomorrow.
I said it was okay. I'd be fine on the floor.
In the end, we both slept on the floor, either side of the bed.
I felt pretty sick at breakfast.
Dad was droning on. It seemed like he had something to say, but he just couldn't get it out.
Well, it wasn't so easy now, was it?
It wasn't that I couldn't tell them. I just wanted to find the right way of. I was building up to it slowly. I couldn't just blurt it out. I told them there was something important we needed to talk about.
Wait, had they found out? How could they know?
I told them that their mother and I had been talking,
Well, that was news.
and that we'd come to a decision.
Oh, I just wanted him to get it over with. Just say it and we can stop pretending.
And that we had decided to.
But then the phone rang.
Phil said he'd get it and walked out into the hall.
It was my mother. She says she had 2 reasons for calling me.
Bill, there was an Arab man at my door. I think he was trying to sell me something. I've told them before I don't want their heathen merchandise, but they come round waving their little trinkets at me.
I told her for the 14th time that that was the postman and he was Italian, not Arabic, which she still didn't seem to believe, but she didn't have any counter arguments, so instead she just pointed out that she didn't like him because he smelt of vinegar. Her second reason for ringing me was to make arrangements for our anniversary. I'd completely forgotten about it. It was myself and Harriet's 26th wedding anniversary. I'd mentioned something about it to Mother a few weeks before, but had forgotten about it since. Not that I was going to admit it to her. My mother has always made it known that she doesn't approve of Harriet. From the first time she met her.
She wore hooped earrings to dinner. Only gypsies and Yanks wear hooped earrings.
She doesn't think Harriet is good enough for me, though I don't know where she thinks that I'm the Duke of, that I need some woman of equal standing. She takes any little imperfection as another mark against Harriet. So if I told her we hadn't actually made any anniversary plans, she'd take that as further proof that our marriage was a sham. I suppose she might also have taken the fact that we just decided to get a divorce as a bit of an indication as well. Mum took my hesitation as a sign that something was up and started making guesses. Had she run away, leaving me with the children? Was there another man? Had one of her actor friends turned her gay?
They're all sleeping with each other, those theatre types, harlots and gays.
I assured her that everything was fine and she didn't believe me. She just started going on about how she'd always known Harriet would betray me. I can't stand to hear my mother talking about Harry like that. It really gets on my wick. So I insisted that we were still very happy and we're definitely having an anniversary dinner tonight, and I'd pick her up at 6.
Yeah, so I was bricking it, waiting for Dad to come back. I know I said that they wouldn't even care that I was pregnant, but at that moment I was starting to wonder. Mum was looking pretty tense. Maybe I'd underestimated their reaction just a little bit. Maybe they were about to lose it. In my head, I'd started going over and over and over all the reasons why they shouldn't worry. You know, that everything was going to be fine.
I waited nervously for Phil to return. I heard him having some kind of heated discussion with his mother on the phone, although I couldn't hear what he was saying. Maybe he was telling her. I knew she'd be delighted. At least I wouldn't have to pretend to like her anymore.
What the hell did Dad want? I was going to be late.
Dad coming back in snapped me out of my thoughts, and I just started talking.
When I walked back into the room, Georgina suddenly blurted out something about everything being under control and that she had a boyfriend and that they were very happy about everything, which was nice.
But it turned out that they hadn't found out about anything. Dad actually wanted to talk about something else entirely.
I couldn't meet Harriet's eye as I told them. She was going to think this was some kind of ploy to keep her here, but I couldn't back down with my mother. We'd get around to everything else after we'd had
a dinner party. What was he talking about? I didn't understand what was going on. First he tells me he wants us to get divorced, and now he wants us to throw a dinner party celebrating 26 years of our marriage.
I tried to move the conversation on quickly in case Harry said anything. So I asked George if she wanted to bring this fella of hers, since she seemed so keen on him.
George mumbled something about asking him.
Then I felt I shouldn't exclude Tim. So I asked if he had anyone he'd like to bring.
Well, no. I mean, even if there was anyone, I was hardly going to bring them to my to a dinner at my parents. You know, not intentionally anyway.
Tim mumbled something about being late and legged it.
I left after Tim.
I suddenly felt like I was going to get sick, so I hurried out as fast as I could.
Leaving me to wonder what had just happened.
Well, it's like any love affair, it ebbs and flows. Some days I can't believe how lucky I am, and then there'll be times I just wish I was doing anything else. But I still love it. I guess I'm married to the music. I can play a few instruments. I play the piano, trumpet, cornet, trombone, and occasionally the French horn. My favorite is the tuba, though. I don't really know why. Maybe I'm just a sucker for the underdog. It's a lesser loved instrument, not one for the fancy solos and trills, but it's not many people's dream to play the tuba. That's why those who do pick it love it a little bit more. We're a very exclusive club. When Tim came to me looking to learn the tuba, I could tell that he was really going to put in the effort. There was a kind of shy infatuation for it in his eyes. He approached me nervously after a concert one night and said that he'd seen me play and fallen in love with the instrument. I was amazed that he could pick out the tuba from the rest of the orchestra. I'd just been filling out the bass. But that told me that he had an ear for it. So I gave him my number and arranged a time for his first lesson. And I'd been teaching him every week for a couple of years by that stage. He was getting very good. He obviously practiced a lot.
Ursula was a good teacher, and I liked the tuba, that's all. I didn't tell my family about it because they just want to see me playing and stuff. It embarrassed me in front of everyone. It wasn't a secret. I just didn't tell them about it. And I kept my tuba in my locker in college and only practiced in a disused warehouse. That's all. Jesus!
Tim turned up that day like every other day. We played through the latest piece he'd been practicing. It was progressing well.
I waited nervously in the cafe. I'd agreed to meet them individually, one an hour later than the other. So like hopefully they wouldn't bump into each other on the shift change. Like I said, I was pretty drunk when I'd gone home with them. Again, individually, I just to make that absolutely clear, I went home individually. So I couldn't really remember what they were like. Although I remember that they were really good guys. I mean, I knew they weren't like mentalists or anything. I wouldn't sleep with a mentalist, not after the unicyclist guy. Yeah, when they arrived, I didn't tell them straight away. I wanted to talk to them for a while first, get to know them a bit.
Well, okay. Yes. Just before I say anything else, if it's okay, I was really pleased when Georgina texted me. I mean, apart from obviously being all for equal rights, with that there being equal opportunities for one person to call the other in reversal of the older way of things. But I also actually really liked her, and I was really pleased to hear from her because I had not been able to find the time, plus admittedly the courage, I guess you could say as well, to call her.
Yeah, so Gary was a little nervous.
I would have to admit I was a little anxious, to be honest, although obviously I wanted to change the situation. If Georgina was interested in doing so with me, I didn't normally go on a lot of actual dates.
Yeah, George was a decent bird, so I thought, hey, if she wants to meet up with me, that's cool.
Peter was older, in his late 20s and more relaxed. I mean, I didn't have to ask too many questions to get him to talk about himself.
But I can understand why she did text me, I'm a fit guy, and a lot of birds are into that. I take care of myself. I eat healthy. Superfoods, smoothies, biotonic shit, which sorts me out, Totally sets me up for partying and doing pills at the weekend.
I told her I was studying computers, which, as you might have noticed, isn't something that normally requires a great deal of social interaction. and when that interaction is necessary, it's usually restricted to conversations of a technical nature, which is good because my nervousness does tend to have the effect of making other people who are around me nervous as well.
I didn't say much at first. I just listened, waiting for the right moment and hoping that I didn't like one more than the other. And then that one would turn out to not be the real father.
Yeah, it's weird, actually. I keep getting these headaches at the moment. Can you be allergic to your own brain, do you think?
And the dog just started jumping on me, and it was like barking, and then I ended up puking all over it, which actually stopped the dog barking, but then I lost a job at the fairground.
Like when I was dumping this Swedish bird, I said to it, you know, it's not you, it's me. I'm just not into ugly chicks. But that didn't seem to calm it down at all. If anything, I think it contributed to her losing the tennis final.
And I have these like sweaty hands, which kind of act up at times of like stress and physical strain, and just sometimes at random, which actually means I'm medically banned from driving a car without these special gloves. But not that I've taken my test because I'm afraid of mirrors. I find them quite dizzying.
Yeah, so listening to them, I forgot my fear of liking one more than the other completely. So I couldn't put it off forever though. So I just said it. And they both reacted quite differently when I told them.
What?
Oh, amazing!
I didn't mean to, and obviously I know it's not the best reaction to this kind of news, but it's important to understand that I didn't mean to freak out. I just panicked, and I didn't want to be there in that situation. It just wasn't part of the plan. In fact, up until that moment, I wasn't aware there was a plan. But if there was a plan, I don't think a baby would have been part of it.
Amazing. I was delighted. A little child, a little baby. I'm big into kids. They're great for throwing around the swimming pool and stuff. The height you can get off one of them. I mean, yeah, maybe this wasn't the ideal circumstances, but what are, you know? You've just got to make the best of whatever comes your way. And however a life comes into this world, it's got to be something to be cherished.
Obviously, it wasn't actually Georgina's fault, and she hadn't gotten pregnant on purpose. And, I really regret shouting that at her in front of the whole cafe.
Oh yeah, I told George that I was there for her. I wanted to be a part of this. If she was up for it.
If I had my time over, and well, apart from the obvious fact that I'm in some of my experiences and I would inevitably perform the same actions. But that said, if I did and if I could change things, then I would, of course, very much. I would have liked to have not stormed out of the cafe, particularly because the stress, just all the distress meant I couldn't grip onto the handle, and I had to wait for an old man to come over and let me out. It was just all very awkward.
Okay, I mean, yeah, admittedly, I didn't tell Gary about Peter and I didn't tell Peter about Gary. But, after the way they reacted, I started thinking that maybe I wouldn't have to, so.
I couldn't concentrate and work that day. I've been staring at the blinking cursor for an hour when I decided to go and see John, see how he was doing now. He was the only one who knew what I was going through. Maybe things would look brighter if I talked to him. I didn't expect things to look quite as bright as they did, though. When I walked into John's office, he seemed fine. He acted like nothing had happened. He was back to his usual self, all business. We talked about a report I was doing on a company called BPR Construction, and he didn't cry once. I was about to leave when I stopped. I turned and asked John if everything was okay. He told me everything was fine. Why shouldn't it be? Because he seemed a little bit upset yesterday, I said. He apologized for yesterday and said everything was fine now. It kind of lifted my spirits a bit. Kind of took a bit of a weight off my shoulders. Maybe this wasn't maybe it wasn't going to be so difficult. If John could recover from the mess he was yesterday, then maybe I wouldn't feel so bad either. Tomorrow, maybe this was for the best. Maybe single life wouldn't be so bad. I told John that I was glad things weren't looking so bad for him. Divorce wasn't the end of the world. But he assured me that divorce was indeed absolutely the end of the world. Going to court, dividing up all your stuff, where do the kids go? It was awful, 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 he said. The reason he was feeling better was because his wife had come back to him.
I stormed around the supermarket. I was furious with Phil. He tells me he wants to get divorced, acts so contemptuous of me when I hadn't been able to tell George, and then it turned out he couldn't do it either. And now I was going around buying food for a roast dinner to celebrate 26 years of our apparently loveless marriage. I was taking out most of my aggression on the shopping trolley as I pushed it around the aisles, dumping ingredients into it with as much force as I dared. I came to the chilled section and was walking towards the beef joints when I glanced down and saw a turkey. I don't know why, but I just felt the urge to slap it. So I did. And it felt good. It felt like a real person. So I slapped it again and again and again. I was really getting into it when I heard a voice behind me. It was a girl, a woman now from school. We'd been best friends back then, but then we lost touch. I hadn't seen her in over 20 years, and now we just bump into each other in the local supermarket while I'm slapping a turkey. She asked what I was up to these days. I told her I was an actor, and she said, like that explained everything. Then she remembered seeing me in an episode of The Sleeping Detective a few years before. Had I kept acting since then? I wanted to show her that I had done more than just play a maid in a cop show. So I told her pretty much everything that had happened since leaving school. It only took a couple of minutes, which was quite disappointing. Next thing you know, I told her about how I was getting divorced, but I had to have a 26th anniversary dinner party first. I wasn't doing a great job of convincing her I wasn't crazy. Maybe I was crazy. She said she hoped everything turned out okay and left without exchanging phone numbers or anything. After she'd walked around the corner at the end of the aisle, I noticed that she'd even left her trolley behind her in a rush to get away from me.
The lesson went well, I think. Ursula had a few pointers for me. I was overemphasizing some of the notes in the minuet.
He was really a natural. It sounded like he practiced for hours every single day.
And I kind of messed up on the second coda in one of the pieces, but Ursula said it was fine. I covered for it. I think, I don't know. I can't remember. Jesus.
Tim's lessons always seemed to go so fast. Next thing you know, my next student was arriving.
Next thing you know, some prick was arriving.
Colin had only been with me a few weeks, but he was showing promise. There's a myth that it can be too late to start learning an instrument, but as long as you're patient, I think everyone can play something. Colin was in his early 40s and was really showing potential. Normally his lesson was on a Monday, but he hadn't been able to do it that week, so I rearranged it for after Tim's.
This guy thought he was so fucking great. He came in swaggering, making all sorts of comments and jokes about Ursula. Totally inappropriate stuff. Saying like that Ursula made him want to practice with his instrument. He was a wanker.
Colin's a very funny man. He's quite flirtatious, but I think that's just his way.
He was definitely into it. What a prick. I bet he'd taken up the tuba just so he could see her. Absolute asshole.
Tim packed up his instrument and I walked him to the door. I said I'd see him next week and then started to close the door, but just as I did.
Well, everything was going fine until that dickhead showed up. I wasn't asking her out on a date. I was just,
Tim asked me if I wanted to go for dinner sometime, which caught me by surprise. And Tim was 10 years younger than me. I didn't think I told him that I didn't normally date students, but then it turned out that I had misunderstood. I think.
I was just asking her to the dinner, my parents' anniversary dinner. Jesus, that's all. Relax.
I was still unsure. I didn't know why Tim would want his tuba teacher there. Seemed a little strange. But then he told me that he wanted me to persuade his parents not to make him give up the tuba, that they said it was distracting him from his real work in college. Well, that really got my goat. It always annoys me when people don't think music is an important part of a person's life. We can't just spend our whole time working. Music is exercise for the soul. If Tim enjoyed playing the tuba, then they shouldn't stop him. So I agreed. I said I would go to the dinner and try to talk to them.
Okay, so it wasn't completely true. But in a way, my parents disapproved of me playing the tuba. They didn't approve of it anyway. Yeah, they didn't actually know about it, but they never encouraged me to play the tuba. Look, I was planning to sort it out later. I just had to meet her outside it was going to be fine. It would have been fine.
I waited in the kitchen for Harriet to come home. I was trying to think of something I could say which would make her change her mind, but since I didn't really know what the problem was, I didn't know what to say. But then maybe I wouldn't have to. Maybe she would have just changed her mind, like John's wife. She opened the door with tears in her eyes. She would open the door with tears in her eyes and tell me that she was sorry and let's just forget about the whole thing.
I was furious by the time I got home. I'd completely embarrassed myself in front of Stephanie. Now I had to sit through the mortification of this meal. I hauled the bags up the front garden and then spent a full minute trying to get the front door open, which still jammed after I had nagged Phil about fixing it. I walked down the hall and into the kitchen only to find him sitting there waiting for his dinner. I ignored him, went over to the counter and started unpacking the shopping.
She didn't open the doors with tears in her eyes and tell me she was sorry. She actually seemed pretty pissed off. I asked if she maybe had to think about things.
How could I not have been thinking about it?
What I meant was, had she changed her mind?
Had I changed my mind? Surely this wasn't about me changing my mind.
Which I didn't really understand. Was that one of those women's things, like when they want you to want to do something rather than just do it?
What?
Well, it's not like I started this.
Fine. Maybe I had a part in it too.
Well, quite a major part, really.
Right, if that's the way you want to see it, then fine. But I'm not the one who just decided to quit.
Well, I've no idea how you could see it like that.
What?
This is a bit self-serving, Harriet. You seem to be just arranging the facts to suit yourself.
I'm the one who's arranging the facts to suit myself. You're the one who's accusing me of starting this.
You did start this.
What? It takes two to tango, is it?
And it just takes one to stop.
Exactly.
What? You're the one who said...
And then Tim came in the door.
Neither of us wanted Tim to see that we were fighting, so we just acted nonchalant.
Mum was slapping a turkey and Dad was doing some leg stretches when I came into the room, which was a bit weird. You know, I was surprised to see Dad there and all. I thought he was supposed to be picking up Gran.
I'd completely forgotten about her. She was going to think that I'd been kidnapped by some Azerbaijani bushmen or something, so I hurried out.
Phil ran to his mammy, leaving me with Tim. I started peeling potatoes to hide my face from him.
Mum seemed pretty busy, so I told her I didn't want to disturb her, but there was going to be someone else for dinner tonight.
Which surprised me. I was about to ask who else was coming, but then the doorbell rang and Tim ran out.
Peter and I walked back towards my house. Peter had suggested coming with me to break the news to my parents. It seemed like a good idea. Maybe his enthusiasm would rub off onto my parents. And, you know, after Wendy's advice about showing them I had everything ready and organized, I sort of agreed. But I was still dreading it. I had already taken several wrong turns just to delay our arrival. There was only a certain number of times I could stop to tie my shoelace, though. Eventually, we were actually going to get there. And while we walked, Peter was making all kinds of plans. He could get a cot of some guy in work, and his sister could send over some baby grows. I mean, meanwhile, I was wondering if it turned out the baby wasn't actually his, would he be convinced that they looked the same if I had just given it the same haircut as him?
There was this amazing diet that I'd heard of. You could put your baby on and it made its brain grow faster.
As I walked to the door, I hoped it was Ursula. If I got her alone before everyone else arrived, maybe I could kind of tell her that, well, tell her something that would have solved everything. And when I opened the door, it wasn't Ursula.
George's brother opened the door, and he looked disappointed to see me, which I thought wasn't particularly a good start to things. I'd spent the afternoon thinking about everything, and I realized obviously it wasn't actually Georgina's fault, and I was approximately 50% accountable for the current situation, and that also is very probable that she might also have been scared, as scared as me, perhaps, as the whole thing. So I had come to apologize about earlier that day, not the previous occasion. It'd taken me quite a while to build up the courage to ring the doorbell, and presumably and justifiably, and now she told her family about the whole total prick that I'd been earlier, and they wouldn't want, maybe they'd want to slit my throat, or I just decided to wait until the father had left, and I saw him leaving in the car, and I thought that was my chance, but I didn't realize she had a brother.
He was a strange little nervous looking chap. I presumed he was, some religious freak looking for money.
I thought about backing out, but I decided I had to go through with this. I was going to ask, was Georgina in?
That's when I remembered that George had said, she might bring someone this evening. I apologized, said she wasn't back yet, and said he should come in.
Well, he didn't seem delighted to see me, but he hadn't punched me straight in the face, which, under the current circumstances would have been totally acceptable. If that's the fact, if he had chosen to do that, that would have been, acceptable. But instead, he led me into the living room and offered me a drink, which I turned down, just to be on the safe side, in case he had, in fact, it was a trick and he had tried to poison me, which would have been less acceptable to me from my perspective, from my point of view anyway.
I said something like it was good to meet him. He seemed surprised.
Really?
Yeah.
So, George, she's told you about me and us and what happened and what's going on, and what's going on with everything and this situation.
Yeah. She mentioned it. She didn't really go into details or anything, but yeah, I got the gist of it.
Oh, really? And you're not. And that doesn't. It's not a problem with you.
No. Why would it be?
It must have been a bit of a shock to have her come home with a plus one, as it were.
Yeah, well, it's hardly the first time.
Huh? Really? Oh, really?
Well, I know. Not that there's been loads of them or anything. I don't think. She's not a total tramp. Just a regular amount for a 21-year-old. I don't know, 1, 2, I guess. But don't worry, none of them are around anymore.
Which is when the mother walked into the room, and she seemed even happier to see me, and I was starting to get very worried at this stage. I'd come expected to get hung, drawn, and quartered. But this was a little bit scarier. This family was crazier. I got their daughter pregnant. I freak out in a cafe, and they act like this happens every day. What kind of girl was she?
And I also had a mate who knew how to get your baby registered as twins, so you could pick up twice as much of the child support. But I could see George was still nervous. I tried to reassure her. I said I was sure her parents would be delighted to become grandparents. Her brother didn't have any kids, right?
Okay, I said something like that. He didn't, and he definitely wasn't likely to have any anytime soon, because the way he never goes out with anyone. But I think, and this definitely wasn't my fault because I didn't say it. But I think that Peter took it that meant that Tim was gay. That's just what he read into it and not what I said, which is the point.
Not that there's anything wrong with being in and out like one of them. It's all cool. More birds for us and all.
As we approached our gate, there was this woman coming the other way, and I turned to go in, but then she turned to go in at the same time.
I asked if this was where Tim lived, and she told me it was.
She introduced herself as Ursula and said Tim had invited her for dinner. Tim hadn't said anything about inviting someone, but then he doesn't say very much. And she was like 20 years older than him or something. And I didn't think there was any way that there was anything romantic going on there. So anyway, we walked into the house and I asked her how she knew Tim. You know, maybe there was something crazy going on with them. Maybe they might act as some kind of distraction from my whole thing. Maybe it wouldn't be so bad. But I didn't get to hear a reply because just at that point,
George came into the room.
And screamed like he'd seen a ghost.
What the bloody hell was going on?
I expected there to be a dead body in the living room or something.
George just stared at me like I was made out of kryptonite. I guess not everybody was pleased to see me.
oh shit.
That's the interval. So we're gonna have a 5-minute break now, and then we'll be back for the second half. Sean, are you there?
I'm here, Mark.
Okay, you're gonna play some songs.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's time to make some more popcorn or go to the loo, whatever you have. But we will be back in 5 minutes at about 16 minutes past 9. Here is Sean.
Thanks. Oh, dog, I'm sorry. The single surfer sits alone, bobbing up and down. The waves were never seen at home on the road. Seagulls all around the sea, scattered across the shore. Blackbirds in the trees, they scream, hear them roar. Gray and black, green and blue, white and brown, up and down. Go until you hit the shore. Shoppers stroll along the strand, staring at the sun. Kids can put their knees in the sand. Ain't that fun? Patient crescent moon sits still, high above us all. Wind can blow our trees at will they fall? Gray and black, green and blue, white and brown, up and down. Go until you reach the shore. Gray and black, green and blue, white and brown, up and down. Go until you hit the shore. Nights I spent on your sermon, I can't forget. Nights I spent on your sermon, nights I spent in your cement. I'd like to thank my dog for singing along in the background. There's no peace, no peace. All right. Yesterday I went outside with my mother's mason jar, caught a lovely butterfly. When I woke up today, checked in on my fairy pet, she had withered all away, no more sighing in her breast. I'm sorry for what I did what my body told me to. I didn't mean to do you harm. Every time I pin down what I want, somehow it slips away. A ghost slips away. I smelled you on my hands for days. I can't wash away your scent. If I'm a dog, then you're a bitch. I guess you're the same as me. Baby, I can live with that. Maybe I need fantasy, life of chasing butterflies. I'm sorry for what I did what my body told me to. I didn't mean to do you harm. Every time I pin down what I think I want, it slips away. A ghost slips away, yeah, yeah. I told you I would return when the robin makes his nest. I'm not ever coming back. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Sorry. All right.
Brilliant. Thank you, Sean. That was great. Beautiful. Who were those songs by?
The first one was my own. It's about a beach in Australia called DY. And the second one was by Weezer.
Nice. I turned away to get some water just as you started. And when the dog yipped, I was like, that's cool. I like what Sean's doing with that song. He's just like, whoa! Just like yipping along with your own song.
Yeah. She loves it. She loves the tunes.
Nice. Okay. Now I'm just checking of all of our cast returned because one just had technical issues there. Okay, we're just waiting for Luke to come back, I think. So here we are, and it's going well. Oh, admitting Luke. So Luke should be coming back now. Okay. Yeah, I guess it's there he is. Okay, so we will start again with the second half of the show.
I didn't really know what to do. Why I had Gary come here. I thought he wasn't interested, and now they were both in the same room. And how was I going to explain him to Peter? And how was I going to explain Peter to him? And how was I going to explain any of this to anyone? I didn't even know how to start. So to be honest, I just stood there saying nothing.
I asked George if everything was all right.
I said that it was fine and that I just thought I'd seen a mouse or something. And then to move things on, I introduced everyone using just their names, not their relationships. So we've got Peter, Ursula, Mum, Tim, Gary.
Who were these people?
Who was this dickhead?
Did nobody think I might like to get a bit of warning before they invite an endless stream of people around for dinner?
Had Ursula invited him along? Was he your boyfriend?
I invited everyone to sit down.
And as people rearranged themselves onto the couch to make more room for Ursula, Peter pulled me aside and quietly asked if
The little fella was Tim's boyfriend.
Well, it was just for the moment while I sorted everything out. I mean, I didn't want them punching each other in the middle of the room, so I kind of agreed that Gary was Tim's boyfriend, but that Peter couldn't say anything about it because they were both still, kind of in the closet, I guess.
Peter sat down beside Gary.
I couldn't have them sitting beside each other. How long before they started talking about everything? I was about to sit down in between them, but then Mom asked me to help her get some drinks, and I didn't want to leave them alone, but I didn't want to make a scene either, so I rushed out to make the drinks and then to get back as quickly as possible.
In the dining room, George started pouring drinks like they were going to evaporate. I asked her what was her rush.
Nothing.
I told George her boyfriend Gary seemed nice.
Oh, well, that's good. Good.
She asked me what he told us, and I said not much so far. He'd just arrived.
Oh, great. Good.
Who are those other people?
I don't know.
You don't know?
No, they're Tim's friends. I just met them outside.
So I said I'd ask Tim who they were.
Well, I mean, I couldn't let her do that. Otherwise, they'd realize that Peter was here with me and then they'd wonder who he was. So I just said that she couldn't ask Tim.
Why not?
Because I think Peter is Tim's boyfriend. And obviously this is a big step for him, so we shouldn't make a big deal out of it, and we should just act like it's natural.
What?
Well, it was just kind of like half a lie. I mean, I didn't know. Maybe Tim was gay, So maybe I was just telling the truth in a kind of way. Maybe I was making it easier for him to come out.
That broke my heart. On top of everything else, the thought that Tim would feel that he couldn't tell us that he was gay.
At which point, Phil, I think he was getting ready to cast some of his voodoo magic on me, or whatever they call that pagan witchcraft of theirs. So I rushed straight out of that synagogue.
I was driving Mother over in the car. I can't really remember what she was talking about, but then she stopped and turned to me and said,
It's not too late to call it off,
At first, I thought she was talking about the divorce. Maybe she'd heard something, or maybe she could just see it in my face. And now she was telling me to fight for my marriage because even though she'd never gone on with Harry, she knew she was important to me and I should do whatever I could to keep her. But actually, she was talking about
this sham of a wedding anniversary.
Mother, will you stop talking like that?
No one would blame you. You married below you.
Mother, for the last time, people from Cabinteely are not a lower class of human being.
I was shell-shocked, I guess. George picked up the drinks and walked out. I couldn't move for a moment. I stood there, trying to think of any clues that I'd missed that Tim was gay.
As I came out of the dining room with a tray of drinks, I found Gary there waiting for me.
I just wanted to get her alone so I could talk to her and apologize for earlier.
I mean, I quickly closed the dining room door behind me so that Mom couldn't hear. What the hell was Gary doing here?
I started to try to apologize. She seemed pretty horrified to see me earlier, which is fair, so I didn't expect this to be easy to convince her to forgive me, but it actually was.
I just wanted him to shut up before my mom came out. I told him it was fine. Everything was okay.
I didn't know what to say. I felt like I should apologize more, but she wouldn't hear it. I told her, instead she told me to make sure not to mention the baby at all to the family because they didn't actually know anything about it. her about that yet. I thought they'd been remarkably relaxed about the whole thing. What the hell was I going to do now? I nearly fainted, and then Mrs. Green came out of the dining room.
To find George and Gary in the hall. I heard George shush Gary as I opened the door.
Mom asked what was going on, why I was telling Gary to shut up, so I told her that I was just telling Gary about Tim.
Well, though I'm not really an expert on homosexuality, despite what Barry Nolan in my primary school used to say on the subject, it did seem like pretty obvious to me that Tim was gay. But of course, I didn't say that to Mrs. Green because I was terrified of her.
I asked Gary not to say anything to Peter or Tim. It was still a bit of a secret.
Oh, yes, certainly that's and no problem. Yeah.
And then she just took the drinks off me and went straight into the living room.
I have to admit my first instinct at that point was to just run. But Georgina's family were probably going to tear me apart when they found out about the baby and all of that mess. But I decided to stick by her this time. If they wanted to pelt me with stones, well, that was fine. I wasn't leaving. I'll take off my glasses first, maybe.
Yeah, I told him that was fine and he should just go, which would have made things a lot easier for me. But he told me that he was going to stay and he wasn't going to let me down again. And whenever I needed him, he'd be there, right by my side.
I did need to go to the loo first, though. My bladder tends to get quite overactive when, in very active during this time of stress, and I'd been holding it in for about a half an hour now.
Gary heads upstairs to the bathroom. I turned around to go back into the living room when Mom came out and asked me to get some snacks. I mean, Jesus, was she intentionally making it impossible for me to keep my baby a secret?
I went to check on the dinner while George went back into the dining room.
Yeah, George's brother seemed like a nice enough chap. I mean, he was a bit quiet. Obviously one of those, thinker fellas.
This Peter guy seemed like a total dick. And that wasn't anything to do with Ursula. He was just annoying the way he was just sitting there big and all. And he's just big.
Yeah, it was pretty tough to keep making conversation with him. And the posh bit. So I got up and went for a piss. When I got out into the hall, George's dad was coming in with a granny.
I mean, honestly, Phil, they're worse than Chinamen with their little hands, reaching out, touching you. Disgusting. Trying to steal your purse is what they're really up to.
For the 5th time, I tried to tell her that the child hadn't been trying to steal from her. It was only 2. Then I spotted a tall chap standing in the hall.
So I introduced myself and said I was here with George. Then headed upstairs to the bog.
So I presume that was Georgina's boyfriend. It was a natural assumption.
Tim was telling me he thought Peter seemed like a nice guy when his grandmother came in. He got up and helped her to a seat.
I went and found Georgina in the dining room.
Dad came in and said he just met my boyfriend in the hall, and I was distracted and confused. It's not like I do this all the time. I'm not lying to everyone all day long. It's actually quite difficult to keep it all in your head. So when Dad said boyfriend, I just assumed he meant Gary.
I thought he said his name was Peter.
God, tits. I was stupid. Almost fucked everything up. I managed to keep my cool and bluff my way through it, though. I pretended I thought he meant Tim's boyfriend. Gary was Tim's boyfriend and Peter was my boyfriend. Well, it had worked out the other way around. Who knows? Okay. That may seem like I was making things worse, but it was just one of those things that just had to get worse before it could get better in a kind of way.
That was quite a shock. I guess I'd suspected for a while that there was something going on with him, but I just hadn't thought he was gay.
I pretended like it was obvious. I had to go for broke. So I acted like we'd all always known he was gay, really.
Oh, yeah, I guess so. Yeah, of course.
But I did tell Dad not to mention it to Tim or Gary because I thought Tim was still a bit shy about the whole thing.
Right. Yeah.
So, okay, so now, Dad thought Peter was my boyfriend, and Mum and Tim thought Gary was my boyfriend, and Dad thought Gary was Tim's boyfriend, and Mum thought Peter was Tim's boyfriend, and Gary and Peter both thought each other was Tim's boyfriend. That's right. Is it? That's it.
As I left the loo, that fella Peter was coming the other way.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
How you doing?
Good.
Listen, mate. George told me all about you guys, so I hope that's all right.
Oh no, that's fine by me. I'm glad that she's letting some people know about everything. In fact, actually, if we're being frank and honest with each other, and I fully appreciate, that you have with me, I'm not really supposed to say, but she told me about you too.
Oh, great. So, no secrets here then, eh?
Yes, no, yes.
Well, anyway, I just wanted to say that, I'm totally cool with that sort of thing.
Oh, great! Thanks. That means a lot to me because I'm totally into what's going on with you guys too. Although I'm not into it, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
But I just think why not? What's the difference? Like if it were up to me, I think you guys should be able to get married and all that kind of stuff.
Well, yeah, I guess so. But let's not get ahead of ourselves, eh?
Right, of course, sure. Well, maybe sometime down the line.
Oh yeah, and who knows? Sometime down the line they'll change the laws and we can have a double wedding, eh?
Oh, yeah, yeah, sure.
Well, hey, Tim's is a great guy.
Yes, Tim. Tim's nice.
As I left the kitchen, Phil came out of the dining room. My stomach tensed at the sight of him.
I was still in shock when I bumped into Harriet. For a moment, I'd even forgot about the whole divorce thing. I asked her if she knew about Tim being gay.
Well, of course.
And why hadn't she told me?
Which I thought was just typical of him. He didn't communicate properly with people. How could he have not known that his own son was gay? Admittedly, he wasn't actually gay, but the point still stood. Well, okay, I guess I was just being a bit defensive. That put Phil on the back foot, so he challenged me about why I couldn't tell the kids about the divorce if I was such a master of communication. I was just about to tell him that if he wanted a divorce, then he could tell the kids about it. But then George came out of the dining room.
What's going on?
Nothing.
Let's go in and join the others.
When everyone was back in the living room.
So I positioned myself between Peter and Gary this time.
I raised my glass and said, cheers.
I thought that was a good opportunity to ask them what the secret to a great marriage was.
I was halfway through mumbling something about communication when Harriet got up to check on the dinner again.
What, did you think it was going to run away or something?
As she left, she told George to lay the table.
When George protested, Peter said something about him hoping her kid doesn't treat her the way she treated her mother.
George stormed out. I said I'd give her a hand and I followed her.
Tim's father, Phil, was sitting to my left, so I thought it was as good a time as any to broach the subject of Tim's tuba playing.
I was still a little dazed and I was trying to adjust to everything when this woman, who I hadn't even really registered, turned to me.
So, Mr. Green, I know it's a little strange for me to be here.
Oh, no, it's fine. You're most welcome. Who are...
Obviously, I'm here to discuss the whole thing with Tim.
Oh, right. Okay, good. That's good. We're always open to listening to. You're a friend of his, are you?
Well, in a way, I suppose. But primarily, I'm his tuba teacher. You know all about this, right?
I've heard of bears, but
Right.
God, I really felt like I just dipped my toe into the waters of my son's homosexuality, and now I was being dragged into the rapids by this strange woman. I wondered what the others were talking about.
They're all the same, that lot. I've never met one who didn't have one eye on my purse and one down my top. I'm surprised they can even hold my library card straight.
The old day was talking to myself and the little Gary fella. She was coming out with all kinds of stuff. She seemed to pretty much hate every race of people except her own.
And you try telling that to the police. They just won't listen. But they're all Hindus these days anyway, aren't they?
We tried to placate her without actually agreeing to anything she said. It was quite tricky.
It's a genetic defect. It's been proven. They have weak knees. That's why they lost the war and have never won the long jump.
Yeah.
In the dining room, I tried to get some information about Ursula and this Peter guy, just so I knew that, what exactly was going on with them. Not because I was jealous of... I was unsure if they'd actually come together, and I just wanted to clear that up.
So Tim started asking about Peter. What the hell was I going to tell him? I mean, I couldn't very well tell him that Peter was his boyfriend. He definitely would have seen through that. But then it seemed like Tim thought that Peter had come with Ursula. So, it was kind of his own fault. I mean, he made the assumption. I just allowed him to do that. And that doesn't count as an actual lie, because I thought he'd invited her, whoever she was. So if he didn't know who she was bringing, that was not my fault. So
I didn't have a clue who this woman was. I just found out my son was gay, and it seemed like she now wanted to fill me in on every little detail about it.
Well, that's what I've come to talk to you about. Now, I know it's not really what you might want for Tim. It's not the most glamorous thing in the world. But I don't think you should discourage Tim from pursuing what he really wants. You may not be aware, but Tim is actually really good at it.
Oh, right. Well, that's good.
I know it may seem like a simple instrument to you, but it's actually very complicated. Tim just has a natural ability with it. He knows how it works. I know it's a cliche, but he does actually treat it like a part of himself.
Well, doesn't everyone?
No. Right, believe me, I've taught hundreds. Tim is one of the most promising pupils I have ever had.
Wait, sorry, I hope this isn't too personal, but how exactly do you teach them? I mean, without going into all the details.
Just like anyone else, really, a half-an-hour lesson every week, and they go off and practice.
Right. I just wouldn't think you'd need lessons.
Well, it may seem easy to the lay person, but it's actually very technically demanding to do it right. Anyone could just blow into the thing and get a noise out of it.
Jesus. Right.
Well, I never agreed with it, Gary. Right from the start. She's an actor. They're just not the right kind of people.
Oh, yeah. Well, I guess they can be different sometimes.
They're all having affairs with each other the whole time. And they don't even see anything wrong with it. Low moral character, you see. It comes from hanging out with the gays.
Oh, well, I don't know about that, Mrs. Green. And I mean, personally, and you're entitled to your opinion, of course, but I wouldn't think the gay people I wouldn't think of them having any lack of morals per se.
Yeah, that's right, Gary. Yeah, maybe you've had some of your bad experiences yourself, Mrs. Green, but You should try and keep an open mind when it comes to these things. You never know. You might find out that someone close to you is gay.
Oh no, I'd know. I'd smell it off them.
We were saved by George's mum coming and calling us in for dinner.
As we walked out, I tried to show a little bit of solidarity with Peter, and I said something along the lines of, she's a bit full on.
Yeah, don't listen to him, mate. Old people can have, old-fashioned views sometimes.
Yeah, it's best to just ignore it, huh?
Exactly, mate. Exactly. Don't pay any attention to it.
Then came the whole thing with the seating.
Well, I just wanted to show that we were comfortable with everyone being there. So as they came in, I told Peter to sit down beside Tim and Gary to sit beside George. Then I went out to bring in more plates.
When Ursula and I walked in, I saw that Tim was sitting beside Peter and George was sitting beside Gary. I wanted to make sure everyone felt comfortable and everything. So I suggested maybe Peter swap with Gary. Then I went out to get some plates of food.
I came back in to find that they'd swapped seats. Peter said that Phil had moved them. I nearly screamed. Why the hell was he doing this? Just to piss me off. I went back out into the hall to find Phil coming the other way.
He seemed furious about something.
Why did you move them around? Does everything have to be your way?
No, I just thought it'd be easier like this.
Easier? How?
Just to have people sitting beside their partners.
But now they're not.
What? No, now they are.
No, they're not.
Look.
Dad came back in and pointed at the table.
And then Mum just said,
Exactly.
And they walked back out again.
I guess I kind of started to wonder if maybe something was going on, but I didn't really think about it too much because I kind of had my own problems to deal with, clearly.
Back in the hall, Harry and I agreed to try and just try and get through the rest of this evening civilly. Although we could see that neither of us really meant it.
when Mum and Dad had come back in and then sat down, seeming to have resolved whatever was going on, Granny spoke up. She looked around the table and then she asked,
So who are these people?
Oh, my heart nearly stopped.
I saw Mum looking at me.
I didn't want Tim to have to talk about it if he didn't want to.
While Dad looked at Ursula.
I didn't want to have to go through that whole thing again.
I couldn't have the whole thing come out. Not yet. Not in front of this guy.
Was this the moment?
I tried to think of something witty to say, which would diffuse the situation and move things on, but all I could think was, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit.
Nobody said anything for about 10 seconds.
So I was about to introduce myself when Georgie's mum cut in.
It doesn't matter who they are. They're all very welcome.
Here, here.
Well, this looks great, Mrs. Green.
Thanks, Peter. It's so good to have everyone here. Very nice and very welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone's very welcome, whatever their section. Very welcome.
So, Peter, what do you do? Are you a student too?
Oh, no, I'm an electrician.
Oh, great. Very handy to have around the house, Tim.
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, if you like that sort of thing.
Who doesn't like electricity?
So, Peter, where did you guys meet then?
Oh, just in a nightclub.
Oh, of course, of course. It's very big, the nightlife, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, I guess so. I like to unwind at the weekends, you know?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Enjoyment is very important in a person's life. Enjoyment. Wouldn't you think so, Phil?
Yeah, that's true. In private.
Yes, Tim, it's very important that people should be able to relax and just be themselves.
Yes, Tim. Whatever's going on in a person's life, they should feel comfortable enough with their family to be open about it.
Yeah.
That's true. If there's anything you want to, Georgina, if you anything you want to,
Peter seemed very determined to get George to talk about our baby, and I was a little alarmed by this.
So, how are you, Granny?
Oh, grinning and bearing it, dear.
Right. Good, good.
are you sure you don't want to?
So, has anyone seen that new Argentinian film?
Oh, no. Yeah, I've heard it's actually good. Well, just I've read in reviews, not from actual real physical people, but I know. But I read about it. We could go if you like.
Yes. Good. Great.
Oh, great. Yeah. Let's all 4 of us go then.
All 4 of them, he said. I couldn't believe he just invited himself and Ursula along. What was wrong with this guy? He just loved barging in on everyone's stuff all the time.
Oh, okay. Great. Yeah, if you like.
George, that okay?
Yep, that sounds fine.
Sound good to you too, Tim?
Oh, you want me to come as well, do you?
Yeah. Of course. All 4 of us.
What? What was he talking about?
Great. Then that is settled.
Which 4?
You and Gary and George and me.
Yep, great.
Wait, but don't you want Ursula to come?
Yeah, sure, yeah. If she likes.
Great. Yes. Let's all go. We're all going to the cinema.
Oh, no, I wouldn't like to intrude.
Oh, hey, why not? The more the merrier.
I couldn't believe that Ursula was just an afterthought to him.
So, to the happy couple.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Go on, give us a kiss. Give her a kiss.
Oh, no, that's, no, we don't have to.
Harriet's not into public displays of affection, so.
I'm not into.
Go on. It's just a kiss.
Yeah, go on. Kiss.
I couldn't look at Harriet.
My insides froze.
No, we needn't. Let's get on with.
Hey, you have to. It's the law.
Well, they don't have to if they don't want to.
Something wrong?
Nothing.
No, nothing's wrong. She seemed like a complete stranger, like an alien had been put in my wife's place. Or maybe that's just what I told myself.
I got a sudden flash of the first time we'd kissed on our 4th date. Both of us had been too nervous to do anything up until then. And in fact, it happened by accident. Phil had walked me to my car. He'd leaned over to open the door for me, and I thought he was going to kiss me. And the last time we'd kissed properly, when Georgina had been in that car accident a couple of years before, Phil found us in the emergency room and...
Snog, 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 snog.
Oh, I need to go to the loo. I think something in the food disagreed with me. Timothy, help me up, will you?
I got up and helped Granny out of the room, but just as the door was closing behind us, I heard Ursula.
So Tim has really been coming along.
I couldn't let go of Granny, so I had to keep moving out of the room. Knowing that, it could all come spilling out while I wasn't there.
Harry started to ask what Tim was coming along with, but I quickly cut her off. I really didn't want to start into that whole thing again.
I tried to hurry Granny up the stairs, but she was moving pretty slow. I craned to hear, what they were saying behind the dining room door, but I couldn't make it out.
I suggested that maybe Phil and Harry would like to come and watch sometime. And Phil acted like I'd suggested they'd watch him kill a goat.
No, that's all right. We're fine.
I couldn't understand why Phil was being so rude. I tried again to ask what they were talking about, but Phil interrupted me.
No, we're fine.
Well, I'll decide what I want to.
Really, we don't want to go into it.
How could you just have no interest in his son's life like that?
Which is when I remembered Gary sitting there. I didn't want to offend him or make him think I was homophobic or something.
Mr. Green started talking to me, but I just didn't know what he was saying.
It's not that we wouldn't be interested, Gary. It's more that we think it might be a little strange. Us watching, not the actual doing of it. That's perfectly normal and good, in its own way.
Oh, okay. Good. Sorry, I'm not really sure what your.
Well, if you'll excuse me, I personally don't think it'd be a little strange for you to want to see your son doing something that he loves.
No. Now, I consider myself a very liberal man, but I'm sorry. I personally would not be interested in seeing my son doing someone that he loves. And that's not making it a thing. I wouldn't want to see my daughter doing it either.
Well, I think that's a shame. Maybe when Tim gets back, he could just give us a short demonstration.
Not in front of my mother.
I left Granny at the loo and ran downstairs back to the dining room, hoping that I wasn't too late.
What are you talking about?
Tim burst into the room and started yabbering about playing a game after dinner.
It was the only thing that I could think of. It's the only thing I could think of.
And then Peter suddenly suggests,
What about the ultimate drinking game?
We're not going to play the ultimate drinking game.
Why not? My family always plays it at Christmas.
Well, that explains a lot.
I couldn't believe how Tim was acting towards his boyfriend. I thought maybe they'd had a fight or something.
Relieved as I was that Tim was back in the room fully clothed, I started to worry about my mother.
She's fine. I'll go back up when she's ready.
You can't just leave her there.
She'll be fine.
She's an old woman.
Or she just does it to get attention, maybe?
Be old.
You know what I mean.
No, I honestly haven't a clue what you mean.
And then Peter said he thought Tim should go up and check on his grandmother, and Tim nearly bit the bloody head off him.
Oh, do you? Fascinating.
If I couldn't fix my own relationship, I thought maybe I could fix Tim's. So I told him to help me clear the plates.
What? Fine.
Tim started picking up plates.
I'm not finished with that, mate.
In the kitchen, I asked him if anything was up.
Nothing.
Why are you being so rude to Peter? What's he done?
Nothing.
Yeah, things seemed to be getting a little weird, and I wasn't exactly sure what was going on, which doesn't usually worry me, but I was starting to get thinking.
After Tim and Mum left the room, Peter turned and asked me if we could go outside for a second.
He'd been pushing Georgina to tell everyone about the baby during the meal, which I thought was a bit out of line, considering, everything that we'd said earlier, and now he was asking to talk to her outside.
So I agreed to go outside before Peter said something in front of everyone else. I brought him up to my bedroom so no one could overhear us.
When the door closed, she told me she wasn't ready to tell her family yet. I told her that was fine, but she wasn't really listening, so she launched into all the reasons she couldn't say anything.
So I wanted to pass my exams first, and I should wait until I know the sex of the baby, and I need to take a look at the economic climate.
So I told her again that was all fine, and she should tell them whenever she was ready. That's not what I wanted to talk to her about.
Instead, he said he wanted to discuss the two of us becoming a proper couple.
Look, Tim, whatever it is between you and Peter, I'm sure you can work it out.
We don't need to work it out.
Just go and apologize to him.
Fine, in a sec.
I was left with just Gary and Ursula. I tried to make small talk with Gary, but he excused himself and left, leaving me with her.
We sat in silence.
Peter put his arm around my waist, and I was tired and I couldn't even think anymore. Maybe this made sense. Maybe I was thinking about things too much. Maybe I should just go with the flow. But then there was a knock on the door and I jumped back.
The door opened and it was Gary.
Although I couldn't initially perceive, I could initially perceive that there was in fact something a little unusual going on. I couldn't actually tell what it was. Was he telling her to tell her parents again, or were they discussing him and Tim?
He was kind of interrupting the moment, so I made some subtle hints to clear off.
Peter told me to clear off because he was about to deploy the helicopter tongue ship. I presumed he meant to get some advice.
So Gary said that he was just coming up to say that he thought he should go, if that was okay. And as far as I was concerned, myself, it was.
Why would he need permission from her to leave?
I didn't actually. I wasn't making a choice. You know, I just thought it'd be easier for the time being if Gary left. So I told him that was fine and I'd see him soon.
Right. See ya.
So Gary left and closed the door behind him.
Right. Now, where were we?
Tim was spending as much time as he could rinsing the plates to put off going and apologising to Peter. I told him that that was enough and he should go and talk to Peter now.
Right, fine.
As Tim left, Gary came in. He thanked me for dinner and told me that he had to go, so I said I'd get his coat for him.
After what seemed like an hour of silent agony, Tim came back in. He didn't stay long, though. He just asked where Peter was. I told him I think he was talking to George.
My sister? What's he doing talking to her?
Perplexed by this, and then left.
Tim passed myself and Gary, and we got Gary's jacket from the coat hooks in the hall. Gary's jacket was underneath several others. As I lifted it out, something fell out of his pocket. It was a ring box.
That's just I wouldn't.
Gary, is this what I think it is?
I put my arm around George again.
Maybe this isn't the best idea just now. We should think about things.
Nah, I don't really like thinking about things.
And then he kissed me.
I opened Georgina's bedroom door to find Peter kissing her. I was stunned. I expected them to spin around guilty, but neither of them seemed to notice me. So I just closed the door again. I couldn't believe it. This guy had come here as Ursula's date or whatever, and within an hour he's snogging my sister. Well, I wasn't going to let him get away with it, so I ran back downstairs.
Mrs. Green just picked up the ring box and...
I didn't know you guys had been seeing each other that long.
Well, we haven't really. It was just in light of well, I was just thinking about
I played with my spoon as I waited with Ursula. I tried to think of something to say, but couldn't think of anything that might not turn the conversation back to Tim's activities. It seemed like it was all that this woman wanted to talk about. I'd compliment her scarf, and she'd tell me that she used it to gag people, or to ask her if she had difficulty finding the house, and she'd tell me that she used to have a sadomasochistic sex dungeon near her or something. Luckily, Tim came back in and asked to talk to her outside.
Well, good luck, Gary.
Thanks. I'm not actually sure. I'm actually not sure I'm going to.
Maybe you should talk to Phil first. I'm sure he'd like that.
Oh, okay. Well, I wasn't actually.
He's very protective of his family, so he's a good man, really. You should talk to him.
Tim rushed me through the hall, past Gary and his mother, up the stairs and onto the landing. He was about to go into one of the rooms when I stopped him. He seemed pissed off and I didn't know what about.
I just want to show you something.
What?
Just, you have to see what's going on in my sister's room.
I'm not going barging into your sister's room. What's going on?
It's...
Just tell me. Tim.
Okay, but I'm not being a rat. It's Peter's in there kissing George.
So?
What do you mean, so?
Now I was left on my own. I got up to see where everyone had got to. I went into the hall where I found Harriet having some kind of conference with Gary. When she saw me, she whispered something in his ear and then went into the living room. I asked Gary what was going on.
Hi, Mr. Green. I was just your wife. Well, that is, I wanted to talk to you about something.
Right.
I'd like to talk to you about, well, you know, a certain lady and a current situation with her.
Had Harry just told him about the divorce? She tells this guy before she tells the children? It seemed like her behavior was getting stranger and stranger.
Mrs. Green was she was saying, well, you know, I know that you're very protective of your family, and rightly so. I can say, and I know it may seem like someone's going to be around forever, but obviously situations change, and people need to go out on their own and make their way in the world, and when these changes, you know, when these things change, it can be good to have someone to go through those changes with, to share responsibilities and stuff. And I wanted to do the right thing, so I'd like to ask your permission to ask her to marry me.
What?
I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She didn't seem to care. I just told her boyfriend was cheating on her, and she didn't give a shit. So I tried saying it again. Maybe she'd misheard me.
Good.
Good.
Well, that's nice for them.
What?
Tim, calm down. There's nothing wrong with it. Your sister's a very attractive girl. Okay, she's going to have lots of guys pursuing her. It's only natural. You can't be so protective.
But what about you?
What about me? Look, Tim, I don't know if I should have come here tonight. To be honest, your family is a little strange. I've never met a man who's more revolted by music, and I don't know if I should really get involved with, like, whatever's going on with all of you. I'm sorry if you have to give up the tuba. I hope you can convince your parents to change their mind, but maybe for now, we should just...
And that's when I kissed her.
Are you insane?
Well, I was just thinking I should probably ask your permission first. I know it's old-fashioned, but
Has everyone gone completely mental? How on earth did you get it into your crazy head that it would be in any way okay for you to marry my... We're not even... Besides, how old are you? What about, for God's sake, what about Tim?
Tim? What about Tim?
Well, shouldn't you be... Fine. Forget it. Go ahead. I don't even care anymore.
Oh, okay. Thanks very much, Mr.
Now, if you don't mind very much, Gary, I'm going to talk to the woman who is, as of last I heard, still my wife.
Oh, okay.
I was staring at our wedding photo, thinking about that moment when Phil had asked me to marry him. We'd been so young. We still were. Then Phil came storming into the room.
Do you know what that guy just asked me?
Yeah, it's exciting, isn't it?
Oh, great. Oh, so you've already discussed this, have you? And you're agreeing to it?
Well, it's not really my decision.
What? How can it not be your... This is madness.
Well, It's a bit sudden,
A
but
bit sudden? Surely this is completely out of the fucking blue. You just met the guy, haven't you?
please calm down, Phil. You always get so overprotective.
Well, excuse me for having some feelings. Obviously, it takes you no time at all to wipe the slate clean.
What?
And what about Tim?
What's it got to do with Tim?
Nothing, apparently.
And then Tim let me go. He started to apologize, but I couldn't hear him. I honestly had no idea. I wondered how long he'd felt like this. Like there was such an age gap between us. That hadn't even occurred to me. It wasn't right. What did people think? Did you really think that I could? And then I kissed him.
I came out into the landing to find Tim and Ursula kissing.
I spun around to find Peter there.
This didn't make sense. I thought he was going out with the little,
And then Tim punched him.
Well, I thought at that stage that he was either going out with her, he was going out with Ursula. He just discovered me kissing her, so I hit him out of self-defense, really.
Yeah, it caught me by surprise, but it actually didn't hurt that much because he hit me square in the forehead. And then he jumped at me and he swung his arm around my neck.
I took a deep breath. It was now or never. I was just going to get it over with. It was the right thing to do. Anyway, and George's parents knew I had the ring, so if I didn't go through with it, I'd look like more of an idiot. So I started walking up slowly up the stairs to George's room, trying to think of what, without, of course, completely ruining the, in many ways, most significant moment in my life. I was going to say to her, I didn't get very far, either mentally or physically, because Tim and Peter came tumbling down the stairs on top of me.
Phil and I were building up to a shouting match when we heard a crash in the hall. Phil went out, opened the door just in time for Tim and Peter to come crashing through it into the living room.
We ran down the stairs to find them tumbling around the room,
fighting each other.
They crashed into a little side table, smashing the top off it.
Peter pushed Tim into the chest of drawers, but Tim jumped back on him, sending them flying over the sofa.
We shouted at them to stop.
but they kept wrestling.
Until they got one of their feet caught in the coal scuttle.
Which made fighting very awkward as they were trapped facing the opposite direction to each other.
They struggled to maintain their balance while at the same time taking swings and neither of them actually managing to hit.
Eventually, they ground to a halt and Phil asked,
"What the hell is going on?"
I kissed Ursula.
What? But that didn't really explain anything. So we searched around for how we got into this situation, everyone desperately confessing their own secrets, not being able to hold on to the guilt anymore.
Georgina's pregnant.
Georgina's pregnant.
Oh,
What?
I'm sorry.
Wow. That's quite surprising, George. But it's okay. You know, whatever happens, your mother and I will be here for you. Right, Harriet?
"No, we're getting divorced."
What?
Why? Why?
It's complicated. It's hard to... Oh.
My parents aren't making me give up the tuba.
What?
That doesn't really explain anything. It does it?
Ursula is my tuba teacher.
Oh. Sorry, I thought that was a metaphor.
A metaphor? For what?
I think that's a trombone.
I don't know who the father is of the baby.
What?
It's it's either Peter or Gary.
What? No.
But he's gay.
He's gay.
George, I can't believe you cheat on your boyfriend like that.
With your brother's boyfriend.
I'm in love with her.
With your sister?
No, But Ursula, there. If that means that you have to punch my head off, then that's fine. Go ahead.
Why would I want to? Is that why you attacked me? Jesus, I don't care, mate. Be my guest.
Ah, yes. I forgot you two have an open relationship.
Which two?
Wait a second. My what?
Okay, sorry. Just okay, so I lied to everyone about Tim being gay.
I'm gay.
He's not gay.
I don't want to.
I don't want a divorce.
What?
What?
You
You've changed
your mind. What?
What?
Changed my mind. I never wanted to. I was just agreeing with you because I didn't want to look like an idiot.
Agreeing with me? I was just agreeing with you. You were the one who... Forget it.
Bill and Harry a kiss.
Okay, when I was 10, I started the rumor that Katie Wilson had contracted diphtheria from kissing her dog. Sorry. I've never told anyone that.
Yeah, and the party wrapped up soon after that. It wasn't a light one, to be honest. Everyone was pretty tired after all that. My head was exhausted.
We walked Ursula to the door. I apologized again for how I reacted earlier.
I apologized for lying to her.
That's all right.
She thanked us for dinner, and I told her that if she came back, we'd try not to act so crazy next time. Then I suggested Phil and I go back inside and leave Tim and Ursula to say goodbye. But before we could, Tim said that it was fine and stepped forward, put an arm around her waist and kissed her.
I sat on the sofa. I couldn't look at them. Would they hate me? Had I totally fucked up this baby chances of knowing its real father? Were they going to start fighting now?
I guess we should take a DNA test, maybe.
Yeah, cool. To be honest, mate, nothing was really going on between me and Georgie. I was kind of interested in giving things a go, though. Were you?
Oh, yeah. Yes, something like that. Well, maybe we should leave all that kind of stuff onto, the DNA results.
Yeah. Yeah, let Georgie take time to think about things.
Yeah. Does that sound okay to you, Georgina?
Yeah, great.
After Gary and Peter left, George came and joined us in the kitchen.
We just sat there in silence.
We weren't like some kind of fucking wonder family from then on and who shared all their stupid emotions with each other and everything.
But for that moment, we were together, as you always dreamed of being. I looked at my beautiful daughter and...
reached out and took my hand, and then Dad put his arm around Tim, and it just seemed like everything was going to be all right. And maybe my family wasn't so bad after all. And maybe I would have cried, but...
Then I remembered that...
I was still on the loo.
The end. Thank you very much, everybody, for watching. Sorry this ran on later than I promised. And sorry for the technical issues at the start. Thank you so much to the amazing cast who came together to do this. Somebody texted me while we were performing there and said, I can't believe that you haven't rehearsed this. And we really didn't rehearse it, and I gave them no directions. They just turned up and did an amazing job. So that's it. I'll see you soon. I will now fumble around and try to figure out how to stop this being live on YouTube. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye, thanks for
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Well
Bye.
done. Bye.